Having talked about depression to a great many number of responses from people, it is important also to talk about anxiety because anxiety is very often comorbid with depression. In other words, anxiety tends to coexist with depression for many, many people, which means that in a lot of cases, people who have depression, people who experience depression also tend to experience anxiety. There are so many different forms of anxiety, but I am going to speak in generalities here. And to say that some of the common symptoms of depression are one feeling restless or tense and feeling nervous, just feeling sometimes that danger is looming, even when there is no strong evidence of that. One is panicked that there is a state of doom just around the corner. Increased heart rate, breathing rapidly, hyperventilating, sweating sometimes profusely, trembling, feeling weak or tired. Sometimes, in fact, in many cases, people who are experiencing anxiety may also have difficulty sleeping, may experience stomach trouble, may just have difficulty stopping themselves from worrying, and will tend to avoid things that they think trigger their anxiety. I have indicated that there are many different kinds of anxiety, and the degrees also vary depending on the individual and the state. What one should note is the fact that the anxiety very often has triggers. So it is important to identify what the triggers of one's anxiety are. In other words, what is it that causes you to get anxious? Because those associations can often be made. Unless it's generalized anxiety disorder, where one just is anxious about everything and nothing specific. Because in many cases, anxiety can be associated with something, which means something happens and it causes one to be anxious, even when one has not been conscious of that thing that happened. Why is it important to treat anxiety? It is very important because a high state of anxiety can actually put a halt to your ability to function well in society. Why do people get anxious? They get anxious for so many different reasons. But can anxiety be stopped? Let's just say anxiety can be controlled. We live in a world where so many things happen and where so many things trigger us to become anxious. It is important to do a few things. Number one, note what the triggers are for your anxiety. And then number two, identify what anxiety does to your body. Because just to be anxious for the sake of anxiety is not really what anyone wants to do or does. But anxiety can actually produce signals, can actually produce conditions in one's body which are unhealthy and will make one even more unhealthy, especially when you are sick or when there is, in fact, a situation that is dangerous. So just again, the summary is this. Anxiety very often coexists with depression. The symptoms of anxiety, generally speaking, are those that I have already identified. And the third point is that it's important to know the triggers, know what causes you to be anxious, and deal with that. How can you deal with that? When you know what the triggers are, you can steady yourself and stop yourself from moving into a state of anxiety as the triggers come forth. And if you are not able to really stop, well, we very often cannot stop triggers. But if you are unable to note the triggers before anxiety sets in, once anxiety sets in, you can also control the anxiety. I talked about steadying yourself, but one way that you can steady yourself is to say, how is it that I'm interpreting this situation that's happening in my life? Is it really realistic that this is happening? Is it really true? Isn't there something else that is happening? Why is that important? It is important because if you can get yourself to ask yourself questions and separate facts from fiction in that moment, then it becomes easier and possible to deal with the current state. If, for example, I worry that someone is about to hurt me when there is nobody around, or I worry that the world is about to crash right now, the sky is about to fall, and I am in such danger because the world can fall on me, then there are multiple ways to really address words like that. I have to ask myself, is it really true? What is the evidence that suggests that something bad is about to happen? And if that evidence does not exist, then it's not about to happen. And if I can make myself understand that the danger that I fear is not going to happen because there is no evidence for it, then it becomes easier to actually live my life without having any triggers or without having that kind of fear cause a debilitating situation in my life. Anxiety works to debilitate us, but what we can do is to stop that by self-talking ourselves out of situations that might produce anxiety. That is only one way. Self-talk is only one way. Uh, Everything that I have just described actually are ways to prevent anxiety. But this is only the first of multiple videos to expect as I talk about anxiety. And in the next multiple videos. Should you wish to get in touch with me, you can do so by sending me an email at ohiro.oni-eseleh at integrativeruminations.com. And after you watch this video, share it. And if you are watching it on YouTube, after you've watched it, write a comment.